Narrated by Amra bint Abdurrahman. A Jewess came to Aisha to ask her about something, and then she said, "May Allah give you refuge from the punishment of the grave." So Aisha asked Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, would the people be punished in their graves? Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, asked Allah's refuge from the punishment of the grave, indicating an affirmative reply. Then one day Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, rode to leave for some place, but the sun eclipsed. He returned on the forenoon and passed through the rear of the dwellings of his wives and stood up and started offering the eclipse prayer, and the people stood behind him. He stood for a long period and then performed a long bowing, and then stood straight for a long period which was shorter than that of the first standing. Then he performed a prolonged bowing which was shorter than the first bowing. Then he raised his head and prostrate for a long time, and then stood up for the second rak'ah for a long while, but the standing was shorter than the standing of the first rak'ah. Then he performed a prolonged bowing which was shorter than that of the first one. He then stood up for a long time but shorter than the first, then again performed a long bowing which was shorter than the first, and then prostrate for a shorter while than that of the first prostration. Then he finished the prayer and delivered the sermon and said what Allah wished, and ordered the people to seek refuge with Allah from the punishment of the grave. Narrated by Abu Mas'ud. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, "The sun and the moon do not eclipse because of someone's death or life, but they are two signs amongst the signs of Allah, so pray whenever you see them." Narrated by Aisha. In the lifetime of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the sun eclipsed, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, stood up to offer the prayer with the people and recited a long recitation. Then he performed a prolonged bowing, and then lifted his head and recited a prolonged recitation which was shorter than the first. Then he performed a prolonged bowing which was shorter than the first, and then lifted his head and performed two prostrations. He then stood up for the second rak'ah and offered it like the first. Then he stood up and said, "The sun and the moon do not eclipse because of someone's life or death, but they are two signs amongst the signs of Allah which he shows to his worshippers. So whenever you see them, make haste for the prayer." Narrated by Abu Musa. The sun eclipsed, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, got up, being afraid that it might be the hour, day of judgment. He went to the mosque and offered the prayer with the longest qiyam, bowing and prostration that I had ever seen him doing. Then he said, "These signs which Allah sends do not occur because of the life or death of somebody, but Allah makes his worshippers afraid by them. So when you see anything thereof, proceed to remember Allah, invoke him and ask for his forgiveness." Narrated by Al-Mughira bin Shuba. On the day of Ibrahim's death, the sun eclipsed, and the people said that the eclipse was due to the death of Ibrahim, the son of the Prophet. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, "The sun and the moon are two signs amongst the signs of Allah. They do not eclipse because of someone's death or life. So when you see them, invoke Allah and pray till the eclipse is clear."